Okay, so we go from movie trailers to big budget films. And so films have just grown as far as the budgets astronomically. And so there's a couple of different stories. So the uh, the one I'm talking about is the one I'm really talking about is Fast X. Okay, now Fast X. This is a picture of Jason Momoa, you know, speeding on the bike. One of the shots you've seen in the many trailers. Okay, um, and that being said, so there have been reviews for this, and I'm actually going to go see it today. So stay tuned for Saturday, guys. I will be doing a spoiler cast on Fast X and telling you guys exactly my thoughts about it and what my thoughts and my opinions about it. So I'm going to start with the box office projections, and then I'm going to get into another piece because I think it's fascinating. So this comes to us from Variety, and so they're talking about it eyeing a $60 million opening. Fast 10, the 10th installment in Universal's high octane franchise, is revving up to lead global box office charts. The movie is projected to open between 60 or more $1 million in North America and at least 220 million at the international box office. Based on those estimates, Fast 10 is looking to capture $280 million worldwide in its first weekend of release. In terms of domestic number box office projections, a soft start around 60 million is below the latest entry, last year's Fast 9, the Fast Saga, which kicked off to $70 million and ended its theatrical run at 173 million for North America. And that was a time when COVID era restrictions meant only 80% of the theaters were open and attendance hadn't yet rebounded. It also lags behind pre-pandemic Fast installments, the 2017's The Fate and the Furious, which opened at 98 million, 2015's Furious 7 at series high 148 million, and the 2013's Fast and Furious 6 at $97 million for a debut. Though the Fast saga has experienced diminishing returns in the United States and Canada, the big screen homage is hulking men and speeding cars has remained hugely popular at the box office. With each installment, overseas ticket sales have accounted for a bigger piece of the pie, as Fast 9 and 2019 spin-off Hobbs and Shaw hit 550 million overseas, and 2017's Fate of the Furious cleared the coveted $1 billion mark from foreign territories alone. Fast at 10 needs to continue that trend because the film is the most expensive installment so far, costing a gargantuan $340 million to produce and another $100 million to promote globally. And I'm going to get to that in a couple minutes. Directed by Louis Loretto, Fast 10 follows Vin Diesel street racing Dom Toretto and crew as they confront the most lethal opponent they've ever faced. Jason Momoa plays the film antagonist Dante Reyes, the son of a drug lord who is seeking revenge for the loss of his family's fortune for a prior heist in Rio de Janeiro. The ensemble cast includes a mixture of familiar faces and newcomers to the family, including Michelle Rodriguez, Jason Momoa, Jason Statham, John Cena, Helen Mirren, Charlize Theron, and Rita Moreno. Already, another sequel has been slated for release in 2025. Variety's Peter DeBerg called the movie, quote, predictably ridiculous, end quote. Not that audiences are watching these movies for the plot. Especially for the recent chapters, the Fast franchise has been less reliant on narrative cohesion and more dependent on the zany, gravity-defying stunts and homages to sell tickets. Okay, let me talk about it, and then I want to go to the other piece because I think that's important too. So, a couple of things. Number one, this is when we talk about movies. I like to just turn my brain off every now and then. Okay, I do. And this is one of those movies. Um, I think that when you have a movie like this, it's gotten so out of control that we go, how much are they going to do, right? And I think that it's one of those things where um, when you spend this much money too, it's crazy. So as seen there in the picture, okay, you have Vin Diesel, who I'm sure number one is a producer on the film, but number two is making a whole lot of money. Okay. Um, you have Momoa, Charlize Theron, Statham, okay, Jordana Brewster, who's been a staple from the whole franchise beginning, John Cena, okay, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, okay, you've got Michelle Rodriguez, Brie Larson is in this, okay. Here's the thing, okay, with this film, it has become so crowded that it's very difficult to get any cohesion. And I guess they're bringing back Han, from what I understand. Justice for Han was. I remember that hashtag. Okay. Um, the other thing, the main reason why I don't like this franchise is this: it is a cut, copy, and paste franchise. Meaning this: you take, you have the crew, okay? You have villain A. Villain A then joins the crew. So we cut them and we copy them and we put them in the crew. Okay. And then we get another villain. And that particular person now becomes good and they go and fight the new villain. And then it's repeat. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I don't, there has to be some story. Okay. Because look, I like watching fast cars too. Okay. But, you know, how much is it? At what point do you suspend disbelief and say, okay, it's gotten so out there. At least Mission Impossible. I'll say one thing: Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. At least what he has done, he does as much practical as he can. Okay, I mean, I talk about it all the time. I rave about it all the time. Go check out, that stunt. Okay, it's a 9-minute video on YouTube from Paramount Pictures. It shows you how they constructed that stunt for the cliff jump. But they did as much as they could, and it looks amazing. This is just, but there's story behind that. This is so outrageous that, and when you have a $340 million budget, at what point does a studio say, okay, we got to cut down the budget so we can break even. We can break even, not just make a profit, but break even. And I think that's the thing about this is if it's only going to make $60 million, only, let's say it tops out at $70 million. How much do you think it's going to make domestically? Really, honestly and truly, how much do you think it's going to make domestically? $200 million? So you're telling me that this movie is going to make, so the way it works is this: a production budget, okay, you have to make at least 2 to 3 times your production budget just to break even. Okay, so for example, this is $340 million. Okay. So that means in order for this film to break even, it has to make $1 billion. It has to make $1 billion or loses money. And really, it was $440 million because of the market. So this thing has to make $1.2 billion just to break even. I'm kind of estimating, but $1.2 billion just to break even. Now, I don't see this making $1.2 billion. I just don't. I can't. Okay. We're going to be talking about another movie here in a couple minutes. And I checked out of that one, but it was at least, there's other elements to it. I just don't see this making that. So we're going to stay on the thing of Fast 10 again. So this comes from Jeremy Fauser. And I am going to try and get him on the show. So, whether it's this summer or after the summer, we can talk to him about the box office. But he is a box office guru, okay? And he, and this is peaceful to, show that. So, mind you, this is going to repeat some of the same information you just had, but he's going to give a different take on it. So it says Dominic Toretto and the family are back for a 10th lap this weekend with Universal's Fast 10, the latest installment in a Fast and Furious series that over the past 2 decades has become one of Universal's biggest box office titans. But Fast 10 will test how much interest moviegoers worldwide still have for the global moneymaker as it heads into theaters in the biggest budget of any film in the series. Currently, box office projections have it opening at around 65 to 73 million in North America and 280 to 305 worldwide. Okay, so let me stop it right there. Let's say it tops out at $73 million, and let's say it tops out at 305. So it's going to make anywhere between 285, okay, to 382. Okay, it's going to make the whole budget back in 1 week. Okay. That's great, but you want to start trying to turn a profit. As the Wrap reported late last year, the production budget for the Fast 10 film ballooned to $340 million, well above the $200 to $225 million budget it spent for the predecessor F9. Some of the reasons for the overrun budget were outside of Universal's control, such as supply demand and inflation costs that made shooting in locations like Rome and Lisbon very expensive, as well as COVID-19 safety costs. But the other factor in the franchise's rising budget can be seen in the poster, showcasing the series' ever-growing cast. And I was just talking about that. Along with longtime regulars Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, and Tyrese Gibson, actors who have played villains in the past have come back, like a Jason Statham, Charlize Theron, and John Cena have become full-time members. On top of this, more A-list actors like Jason Momoa and Brie Larson are joining this time around, inflating the cast payroll. If Fast 10 was expected to easily clear $1 billion at the global box office like predecessors Fast 7 and The Fate and the Furious did in 2015 and 2017, respectively, this wouldn't be a problem. But domestic tracking has this film at roughly $70 million that F9 got in May 2021, when the box office was just beginning its pandemic recovery and moviegoers were slowly returning to the theaters. F9 ended up grossing $173 million domestically and $726 worldwide. In order to turn a profit from theatrical alone, Fast 10 is going to have to at least reach $800 to $850 million for success. So think about that for a minute, okay? Think about that, okay? $800 to $850 million just to turn a profit, okay? I said it was around 2.5 times. There is no way there is no way that this is going to make 800 to $850 million. Now, look, I could eat my words. I'll be the first one to say, I don't know. Okay. But if it's only opening at $60 million or $70 million, what do you think is going to happen? Okay. I mean, I've got a very, very big problem with, you know, look, and I've always said they're making films for overseas. They're not making them for here. Okay. We love our celebrities and our stars. Okay. Like a Brie Larson, like The Rock, like whoever you want to name. Okay. But this is for, they don't care. They love people. They love these movie stars overseas because they're not critiquing. Okay. I would be shocked in a month's time, especially, okay. Now you do have Memorial Day coming up. Okay. That's understandable. I would be shocked because once June hits, forget about it. Forget about it. June is packed. And I've discussed it several times here on the show. Okay. Across the Spider Verse. Okay. You've got Transformers, Rise of the Beast. You've got The Flash. You've got Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Okay. There is no way this is turning a profit. There is no way. Which leads me to the question, what are they going to do for the next one? Because this is supposed to be at least 2 to 3 movies. That will be fascinating. Okay. Back to the piece real quick. At this point, it's difficult to say whether the Fast and Furious has had enough global interest to hit that mark. The franchise still has a dependable fan base and a solid reputation of over-the-top, ludicrous, see what he said? Ludicrous, action escapism that should allow it to do well through the Memorial Day weekend. But sustaining buzz against June titles, and I was just referring to this, you have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers Rise of the Beast, and The Flash, not to mention Indiana Jones at the end of the month. So it may come down to the film's overseas performance. International ticket sales may well determine whether Fast 10 turns a theatrical profit or has to resort to a post-theatrical revenue stream to get out of the red. Even at the height of its popularity, Fast and Furious has been one of the franchises that's been more than an international moneymaker, as both Fast 7 and Fate grossed over $1 billion without North America factoring in. Now, with one of those movies, and I believe it was Fate of the Furious, Paul Walker had just passed away. Now, I'm not saying that had anything to do with it, but it definitely had a tiny bit to do with it. It wasn't the whole reason because the tribute was amazing and everybody wanted to see the tribute. But there was a little tiny bit of that there. With Chinese moviegoers no longer interested in most Hollywood offerings, those overseas grosses may be diminished. Insiders at Universal says the studio is expecting Fast X to gross less than the 216 million that Fast 9 got. Though there's still hope that the drop will not be as steep as the Fast and Furious, still one of the most popular Hollywood titles in China. That will mean the rest of the international theatrical market, which has recovered greatly since the release of Fast 9, may have to pick up the slack. While Fast 9 got a month-long release rollout worldwide, Fast 10 will be released in 81 markets worldwide this weekend, starting today, really, here in the States. That means we will know right away how the film is performing compared to the past Fast and Furious films, and whether this franchise has the ability to be a hit no matter what the budget. Okay, so let's talk about this because it's so important to understand this. And this is why I talk about the business, guys, because look, it's always great to go see these movies, but it's another thing to actually understand the business because the business is half the battle. Okay. When you are making a movie, Okay. That is $340 million. Now think about this. I want you guys to think about something real quick. Okay. Endgame and Infinity War, okay, both cost $250 million each. They cost $250 million each. Okay. That being said, Endgame made over $2 billion. Okay. Um, and Infinity War made over $1 billion. But those had stories. You were invested in those characters. There's no investment here. There's zero story here. The fact that you're bringing back a character that was, from 4 or 5 films and he died. Okay. Oh, I just, decided I wanted to retire for 4 or 5 films and then, you know, um, and that's why I said, number one, you have all of these stars. Okay, take a look at this picture. You have 7 or 8 people. I'm not talking, okay, so you've got Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Ludacris, okay? They are all, and Jordana Brewster. Those are your 4, Tyrese Gibson. Those are your 5 staples. They have been in every single movie, okay? Every single one. Now, over the course of the last 5 movies, okay, you've brought in Charlize Theron, you've brought in Jason Statham, you've brought in John Cena, you've brought in Charlize Theron, and you've brought in Brie Larson. If you take those 5 budgets, okay, compared to the other 5 budgets, I'd be curious to see what they are. That being said, that's your problem. It's way over inflated, okay? And eventually the bubble is going to pop, okay? I don't see how this A turns a profit and B, why you need all of these people in there, okay? You look at something like Civil War, okay? Civil War was a film where, and we had lead up to it, okay? And there is precedent for this, okay, to have all these characters in there. But if you look at Civil War, not only was that a team movie, okay, Team Cap against Team Iron Man, okay, that you had individual stories. Every single person had their own individual story. Every single one of them. Whether it was Bucky, whether it was Tony, whether it was, Natasha, whether it was, whoever it was, okay, they had their own story. Half of these characters, okay, half of them have come in the last 5 or 6 years or the last 5 movies. You don't need that, okay? It is way overinflated, okay? And that's a good reason why. So you're spending $340 million, okay? That's it. And I just, I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked and floored if this movie turned a profit. I would. And if you think, bringing back other stars is going to do it, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Okay? Because this is so. Look, I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but there's a difference between suspending disbelief and just shaking your head, go, oh, God, now what? At least with, and I compared it to Mission Impossible earlier. Tom Cruise does everything practical as much as he can. As much as everything practical. Everything. Whether it's, hanging off this. Now, does he have harnesses and everything else? Yeah, okay. He hangs off the side of a plane. He climbs the largest building in the world. Okay? It takes a year for him to get the air capacity to actually, and they can only do one shot a day for a halo jump. He learns in 3 or 4 months how to fly a helicopter. Okay? And he did it all. And that's why a movie like Fallout is so good. It's so good. Okay? And then you bring in the star power, like an Angela Bassett, like a Henry Cavill. Okay? But it's so good. And you can bring back recurring people like Michelle Monaghan. Okay? For a small part. Anyways, I don't see this turning a profit, and B, I'm just going to go and have a good time. Anyways, guys, what do you guys think about the Fast X? What do you think about the opening numbers for Fast X? How much do you think it's going to make here domestically? How much do you think it's going to make overseas? How much do you think it's going to make total? And if it takes 800 or 900 million to turn a profit, do you think it could turn a profit? Anyways, leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I will get back to you.